Hi everybody, it's Lou. I'm back to do a video. This video is for Brett's channel, Vinyl Victim. Congratulations, Brett, on getting 100 subs. That's fantastic. I really enjoy watching your videos. And I've made this comment before on one of your videos is what I really like about your channel is the first time I saw you in a video, you were wearing an AC/DC shirt, which is a band that I really love. But yet, as much as you love AC/DC and love other kinds of hard rock and metal, you would still show a variety of music, Prince, Chicago, Hall & Oates, and I really like the idea of we have our favorites, but that doesn't stop us from liking what might be perceived as bands outside of a given genre, or having guilty pleasures, and even if you want to call them guilty pleasures, I think anybody can like what they want to like, and it's totally cool and up to them, and that's what makes music such a beautiful thing, is that we can enjoy so many different kinds of music, and you can have your particular favorites, but it's also nice to really expand and enjoy so many different kinds of music. So Brett's contest is where we were to pick a favorite album and to list different pieces of information about the album and interesting facts about the album and so forth. Originally I was going to select my favorite album of all time, which is the Stone Roses debut album, but because it's such a great album, it was done by someone else already, Grebo69, and he did a fantastic video giving all kinds of information, and you can tell that he really loves that album. So I decided to pick another album instead. It's another favorite album of mine. This is a favorite album. This is my favorite group, which is the Police, and my favorite album by the Police, which is Reggatta de Blanc. This is the Police's second album. It was released in 1979 on A&M Records. The album was produced by Nigel Gray. I think this was the first album that Nigel Gray produced, or at least the first really noteworthy band that he produced. This is the inner sleeve picture of the band. I didn't know this at the time, but in seeing what other albums Nigel Gray or bands that he's worked with, he's also done some work with Susie and Banshees, and he's also done some work with Godley and Cream, the two guys from 10cc. But I think all that came after working with the Police. So again, Reggatta de Blanc, the Police's second album, recorded at Surrey Studios in England, produced by Nigel Gray and the Police. Engineered by Nigel Gray. I don't know who mastered and where it was mastered. There wasn't any information on the album. Excuse me, and I couldn't find anything. Again, it's Police's second album, and the name Reggatta de Blanc is sort of a loose translation into white reggae. The Police definitely had a reggae-influenced sound. I wouldn't say that they play reggae, but they certainly have reggae elements in their drumming, in their bass, in some of the vocals, and some of the rhythm guitar, things like that. A lot of the Police took their name and came out of sort of punk roots. Stuart Copeland was the drummer who formed the band. He was into punk, and he really liked the energy of punk. Even though the Police don't play punk, they do have a good energy in their live shows, and their early live shows, and their early albums, and a lot of punk bands also incorporate elements of reggae. You hear that a lot in some of the Clash's recordings, and the Police were certainly one of those bands who incorporated a little bit of punk, a little bit of reggae, a little bit of rock to form their own sort of blend of music. So again, the name Reggatta de Blanc, white reggae, it was in theme with the Police's first three albums, in which they sort of had these unique own language type of titles. Outlandos d'Amour, which I think loosely translated into Outlaws of Love, Reggatta de Blanc, and then the third album was Zenyatta Mondada. Then they stopped naming their albums in that way with their fourth album, which was Ghost in the Machine, and then finally Synchronicity. There's 11 songs on 11 songs on this album. Most of them are written by Sting. At least the major hits were written by Sting. Those hits include two UK #1 singles in Message in a Bottle and Walking on the Moon, and this was also the Police's first UK #1 album as well. The Police also won a Grammy for a song on this for the title track of this album, Reggatta de Blanc. It won Best Rock Instrumental at the 1980 Grammys. Even though the song does have some vocals, there's no lyrics to the song. And the one thing about this album was that there was a shortness of material that the Police had written by the time it came to record this album. Whereas for Outlandos d'Amour, apparently there was a lot of material there. And Sting was pretty prolific around that period. For this album, there was a shortness of material, which I think then led to Stuart Copeland writing more for this album, which he usually does. He usually has maybe like one song per Police album. He wrote 3 songs for this album. Sting wrote the major hits, and they also used. There's a song on this album called No Time This Time, which is the last track, which was a B-side from a single from their first album, Can't Stand Losing You. So you could see that, you know, there was a shortness of material there. Just to go through the songs, it starts off again with Message in a Bottle, which was one of the UK #1 hits. And Sting at that point in time was writing material that was a little bit more intricate, with more intricate guitar lines, and he's often said that it was Andy Summers joining the band on guitar who replaced their previous guitarist Henry Pandovani, who actually didn't play on any of the Police albums. Sting says that it was Andy Summers' ability on guitar that allowed him to write more intricate songs, and that's certainly true of Message in a Bottle. The second song is the title track, Reggatta de Blanc. That song started off as an instrumental interlude that they used to do at the end of Can't Stand Losing You. And when it came time to record this album, again, shortness of material, they recorded that song. I'm really glad they did, because that's such a fantastic song. Third song is It's Alright For You, is a co-written song from Sting and Stuart Copeland, which is very unusual that the two of them would actually write a song together, or I think they really just sort of combined 2 different parts. Followed then by Bring On The Night, which I think is another song that Sting says, you know, he was able to write slightly more complex guitar lines because of Andy Summers' skills. And side 1 is finished off by the song Death Wish, which is a song written by all 3 Police members. Again, very unique for the Police to have a song where all 3 members are involved in the writing. And that happened as well with Reggatta de Blanc, which was, again, sort of a jam that they used to do live in concert at the end of or in the middle of Can't Stand Losing You. Side 2 starts off with the other #1 single, Walking on the Moon. This is the song that's probably most influenced with reggae. Certainly the drumming on this album, Stuart Copeland blends a lot of his different styles, which include a reggae style of drumming. Sting's bass lines are also very prominent on this album as well, which again is a trademark of reggae, where the bass takes a little bit more of a lead over the rhythm guitar. The second song on side 2 is Stuart Copeland, kind of a silly song with a little bit of spoken word, On Any Other Day. The third song was released as a single. I don't know if it charted, but certainly one of my favorite Police songs, The Bed's Too Big Without You. Definitely has a reggae feel to that song with the drumming and the bass lines. Followed by another Stuart Copeland song, Contact, which again is a little bit of a throwaway song, but certainly quirky enough and enjoyable enough that is a song that I like. And it's one of the rare occasions where Sting actually sings a song that was written by Stuart Copeland. Another song that was written by Stuart Copeland was the Police's very first single called Fallout, which again is another rare occasion of Sting singing a song written by Stuart Copeland. And they actually considered re-recording Fallout for this album, but then decided against it. So after Contact, we have another Stuart Copeland song, and also a fairly old song called Does Everyone Stare. Starts off with Stuart on vocals and then finishes with Sting on vocals, and actually includes Andy on piano. One of the rare times where Andy Summers is playing piano on a Police album. Normally he's the guitarist. And I didn't mention off the top, Stuart Copeland obviously is the drummer, and Sting's the vocalist and bass player. Does Everyone Stare, and then the very last song, as I mentioned before, No Time This Time, which was formerly a B-side to a previous single. And that's the album. I think the Police, if you catch any live clips of them at around this time, this is really when they were at their peak. And a lot of jamming, a lot of amazing drumming. A lot of drummers are fans of Stuart Copeland's drumming technique, the amount of energy that he brings, his very unconventional style of drumming, and the blending of different genres. You know, there's some reggae drumming in there, I think some African influence, some jazz influence, and obviously some rock. And he just plays with an unbelievable energy. And Sting obviously gets most of the focus in the band, but certainly to Police fans, they see Stuart Copeland and Andy Summers being integral parts of the band. Just seeing if I'm missing any other details. No, I think that's it. So again, I highly recommend this album. I know Synchronicity gets a lot of love because of Every Breath You Take and some of the other big singles, but certainly this is where the magic began. The Police only had 5 albums. This was their second album, and Stuart Copeland himself said this is his favorite Police album. And certainly once you hear the drumming on this album and the rhythm, you can easily understand why. So again, congratulations, Brett. Great contest question, and like to see everyone's comments. Thank you. Bye.